White House says it's going to focus on an equitable recovery, whatever that means. Our next guest, Dr. Ben Carson, is sounding the alarm on this hyper focus on that word equity. He writes in a new op-ed, quote, "Proponents of equity see no problem with treating groups of people differently based solely on race as long as it serves their agenda. This is what we used to call racism." Joining us now to discuss that op-ed and continue our series on the future of America First is Dr. Ben Carson, founder of American Cornerstone Institute. Mr. Secretary, always good to see you.
Good to see you, Sean.
So, you know, like we said, the president's going to make a ton of spending proclamations tonight. Do you think that race is, that these things are inherently racist based on what you said in that op-ed?
Well, the problem that we have right now is racism is a good default for the left who wants to divide us. They want to divide us on the basis of everything: race, income, gender, religion, you name it, creating enormous chaos. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the minority community who take the bait that they're victims, and a lot of people in the white community who take the bait that they are oppressors, and they become guilty. And you take the combination of guilt and victimhood, and it creates some really awful policies that absolutely make no sense whatsoever. And we're not really stopping to look at this thing objectively. You know, when I was a kid 50, 60 years ago in Detroit and Boston, there was real racism. Believe me, I mean, it was an everyday occurrence in every place we went. That's gone. That's gone. Are there still some people who are afflicted by racism, who have small minds? Absolutely. But it is not a systemic problem. And when we try to fit everything into that box, look how silly it looks. You know, for instance, remember last week in Columbus, the police officer who shot the 16-year-old girl, and they're claiming that it was a racist act. No, if in fact he had been racist, he would have said, it's just two black women fighting, let them kill each other, I don't care. That's the way a racist would have reacted. And you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, the poor police are put in an awful place. And you see there's large numbers of them resigning, retiring early. Eventually, what can you do? You have to bring in the military. And dun-dun-dun-dun, police state. You know, all of this is happening very rapidly, and people really need to open their eyes and see what's going on here.
Yeah. Dr. Carson, you were the HUD secretary, and as Sean mentioned, Biden is proposing this massive spending, calling American Family Plan tonight. It's supposed to do all these amazing things for families, which he is going to tout: free education, free community college, free child care. Do you think any of these investments that he's talking about are really going to be helpful to housing and urban development areas?
Well, of course, it sounds good, but you got to remember, since the war on poverty was declared during the time of Lyndon Johnson, more than $20 trillion has been spent to little effect. The things that do work, during the last 4 years, you had opportunity zones where people were encouraged to take unrealized capital gains and invest them to areas that were economically neglected. It was expected that over the course of 10 years, it would attract $100 billion of capital investment. In the first 2 years, it attracted $75 billion, three-quarters of that amount in only 2 years. Expected to lift 1 million people out of poverty, 11% decrease in poverty in these areas. Those are the kinds of things that make a difference. Those are the kinds of things that work. You know, decreasing the taxes, decreasing the regulations so that you create a business environment where people want to create businesses. Hiring was going on, lowest minority unemployment rates, increasing wages. I mean, why would you take something that is working so well and utterly turn it around and start trying to destroy it, knowing historically what the consequences of excessive regulation and taxation is?
That's right. You know, Dr. Carson, we've been talking about the future of America First. We've been running a series all week talking about groups that have formed post-Trump presidency. You founded the American Cornerstone Institute to challenge conventional wisdom and prevailing groupthink. Tell us about your group and where we can learn more about it.
AmericanCornerstone.org. Please go. There's a lot of good stuff there. It'd be very entertaining, too. But, you know, basically we started it because America seemed to be moving away from those foundational cornerstone pillars, which propelled us from a ragtag bunch of militiamen to the pinnacle of the world in record time. And those are things like our faith. Our faith teaches us how to get along with our fellow man. It says, love your neighbor. You know, pray for them that despitefully use you. Have pity upon the poor and help them. Now, what's that being replaced with? Hate your neighbor, cancel your neighbor, help the poor if they check all the boxes. You know, these are not American ideals. They are far from it. And then another cornerstone is liberty. We were the tiny city on the hill. You know, I saw an interview a few weeks ago where they were interviewing college students in other countries, and they said, do you want to go to America? And they all said, I used to want to go there. I don't want to go there anymore. That's very troubling to me. And people say, but we have freedom of speech here. The government's not limiting your speech. Is that actually true? Because we have big tech and the media imposing all kinds of restrictions on people, all kinds of punishments if people say certain kinds of things with the compliance of the government. That's every bit as malicious as the government imposing it itself. And then community. We worked so well because we had people with different talents and skills who were able to work together. This is how America grew and flourished. Now we've reached the point where if the person across the street from you has a different yard sign, you're supposed to hate them. And then as we've gotten away from our respect from life, from the womb to the tomb, we've become much more coarse and callous. So we are re-emphasizing all of those things, have programs in place, including the Little Patriots coming out this summer, which begins to teach our young people the true history of our country and the foundations thereof.
Well, Dr. Carson, as always, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on the group. As you mentioned, AmericanCornerstone.org is where you can find more. I appreciate you being with us.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.